Very little is known by outsiders regarding Egbo compared to what there must be to be known, owing to a want of interest or to a sense of inability on the part of most white people to make head or tail out of what seems to them a horrid pagan practice or a farrago of nonsense. It is still a great power, although its officials in Duke or Creektown are no longer allowed to go chopping and whipping promiscuously, because the Consulate General has a prejudice against this sort of thing. And the Efki is learning that it is nearly as unhealthy to go against his Consul General as against his Juju. So I do not believe that you will ever get the truth about it in Duketown or Creektown. If you want to get hold of the underlying idea of these societies, you must go round out-of-the-way corners where natives are not yet afraid of being laughed at or punished. Of the southwest coast secret societies, the Ukuku seem the most powerful. The Soigyo, belonging to those indolent Igalways, and the Mpongwe, is now little more than a play. You pretty frequently come upon Isoigyo dances just round Libreville. You will see stretched across the little street in a cluster of houses a line from which branches are suspended, making a sort of screen. The women and children keep one side of the screen, the men dancing on the other side to the peculiar monotonous Iogo tune. Pora I have spoken of elsewhere. I believe that these secret societies are always distinct from the leopard societies. I have pretty nearly enough evidence to prove that it is so in some districts, but not in all. So far my evidence only goes to prove the distinction of the two among the Negroes, not among the Bantu, and in all cases you will find some men belonging to both. Some men, in fact, go in for all the societies in their district, but not all the men. And in all the districts, if you look close, you will find several societies apart from the regular youth initiating one. These other societies are practically murder societies, and their practices usually include cannibalism, which is not an essential part of the rites of the great tribal societies, Isyogo or Egbo. In the Calabar district, I was informed by natives that there was a society of which the last entered member has to provide, for the entertainment of the other members, the body of a relative of his own, and sacrificial cannibalism is always breaking out, or perhaps I should say being discovered, by the white authorities in the Niger Delta. There was the great outburst of it at Brass in 1895, and one chronicled in the Liverpool Mercury for August the 13th, 1895, as occurring at Sierra Leone. This account is worth quoting. It describes the hanging by the authorities of 3 murderers and states the incidences which took place in the Imperi country behind Freetown. One of the chief murderers was a man named Zhao, who had formerly been a Sunday school teacher in Sierra Leone. He pleaded an extenuation of the offense that he had been compelled to join the society. The others said they committed the murders in order to obtain certain parts of the body for juju purposes, the leg, the hand, the heart, etc. The Mercury goes on to give the statement of the Reverend Father Bomi of the Roman Catholic Mission. He said he was at Bromtu, where the St. Joseph Mission has a station, when a man was brought down from the Imperi country in a boat. The poor fellow was in a dreadful state, and was brought to the station for medical treatment. He said he was working on his farm, when he was suddenly pounced upon from behind. A number of sharp instruments were driven into the back of his neck. He presented a fearful sight, having wounds all over his body, supposed to have been inflicted by the claws of the leopard, but in reality they were stabs from sharp-pointed knives. The native, who was a powerfully built man, called out, and his cries attracted the attention of his relations. The leopards made off. The poor fellow died at Bromtu from the injuries. It was only his splendid physique that kept him alive until his arrival at the mission. The Mercury goes on to quote from the Pall Mall, and I too go on quoting to show that these things are known and acknowledged to have taken place in a colony like Sierra Leone, which has an unequaled opportunities of becoming Christianized for more than 100 years, and now has more than 130 places of Christian worship in it. Some 20 years ago, there was a war between this tribe Tamea, Tamea, Taima, and the Parmas. The Parmas sent some of their war boys to be ambushed in the intervening country, the Imperi, but the Imperi delivered these war boys to the enemy. In revenge, the Parmas sent the Ftsh Bufima into the Imperi country. This fetish had up to this time been kept active and working by the sacrifice of goats, but the medicine man of the Parmaras, who introduced it into the Imperi country, decreed at the same time that human sacrifices would be required to keep it alive, thereby working their vengeance on the Imperi by leading them to exterminate themselves and sacrifice to the fetish. The country for years has been terrorized by this secret worship of Bufima, and at one time the Imperi started the Tonga dances, at which the medicine men pointed out the supposed worshippers of Bufima, the so-called human leopards, because when seizing their victims for sacrifice, they covered themselves with leopard skin, and imitating the roars of the leopard, they sprang upon their victim, plunging at the same time 2 3-pronged forks into each side of the throat. The government some years ago forbade the Tonga dances, and are now striving to suppress the human leopards. There are also human alligators who, disguised as alligators, swim in the creeks upon the canoes and carry off the crew. Some of them have been brought for trial, but no complete case has been made out against them. In comment upon this account, which is evidently written by someone well versed in the affair, I will only remark that sometimes, instead of the 3-pronged forks, there are fixed in the paws of the leopard skin sharp-pointed cutting knives, the skin being made into a sort of glove into which the hands of the human leopard fits. In one skin I saw down south, this was most ingeniously done. The knives were shaped like leopard claws, curved, sharp-pointed, and with cutting edges underneath. And I am told the American Mendi Mission, which works in Sierra Leone districts, have got a similar skin in their possession.